Hello all. It's a slightly different video this time. I'm not actually going anywhere in the car or out and about in the countryside. Today I'm just going to show you what's inside an old DVD recorder. I've always wondered, although I've got a kind of rough idea, but I'd just like to open it up and show you what's inside it. Just in case you haven't, in case you're wondering, that's all. Okay, so I'm going to wait to show you the device and the tools I'm going to use. Okay, just. Okay, right, this is the old DVD recorder. It's getting chucked because it's finished. But before I throw it out, I just want to open it up and see what's inside. This is the model. It's Techwood, and that's the serial model number or whatever. It's an old design. We've had it for years, but it's no longer working now. So instead of throwing it out, I'm just going to open it up first before I throw it out. Now, I wouldn't recommend anybody do this unless they really know exactly what they're doing. A wee bit about the basics of electrical components. Obviously, because it's plugged into mains, it uses, you know, lethal voltages, and there could be like capacitors inside there that store voltages, etc. So, if you don't know anything about electrical goods or anything like that, don't open it. Just dispose of it through the appropriate channels, the skips or recycling centres. You know, just dispose of it responsibly. But don't go opening these things up, and never ever open it when it's plugged in. Take the fuse out of here, you know, just to be certain. I'll take the plug off. But because this is going out anyway, you know, it's not been powered up for a long time, so there isn't any. There shouldn't be any voltages in the capacitors and that, but never take chances. There is a device called a neon tester. I'll see if we could dig that out. So bear with me a minute. Yeah, this is the neon tester. So a qualified electrician would know how to use this properly. Basically, you touch a component at the insulated end, but you hold it at the insulated end, you touch the component and it would light up if it was live, basically. But this is for really the electricians, sort of technicians, that should open these things up, because again, being a DVD recorder, it uses lasers inside it, so you would never want to switch it on or anything like that because of it's a light hazard. You know, it could blind you basically if you look at the lasers inside there. There is a laser obviously that runs in it. So what I'll do then now is I'll get the camera sitting on this table, and I'll get this opened up with a good Phillips screwdriver, and I'll see what's inside. Okay. Okay, right. I'm going to film me opening this up. Okay, so I've got the camera sitting on the camera phone sitting on the table, so I'm just hoping that this will all be in view. Now, you will notice I've got metal jewellery on. Obviously, if you're working with electrical equipment and there's potentially power into it, you would never wear anything metal on. You would remove them and wear insulated gloves. But this hasn't been on for ages. There's no power inside it, so I'll be okay with that. So I'll get the Phillips screwdriver and I'll get this dismantled for you. Set that there. So there's screw at the side, 1, 2, 3 screws at the back, so we're going to do them next. That's all the auxiliary inputs and outputs, the jack plugs and SCART leads, SCART plugs, etc. Back there, and you've got your mains cord going in. Because this has got the actual plug on it, the power pack supply, the transformer's built inside here. So, see that as well. A lot of the devices have got it on the plug. But this is an old device, an old DVD recorder, so it's got the old power supply built inside. transformer. It's a magnetic screwdriver this by the way, so it's handy for. So like I say, I would never recommend you open anything up electrical unless you know a bit about the basics of electrical safety and that. And never ever open it up when it's plugged in and switched on. Always make sure that it's unplugged and safer still, you know, you'd always take the fuse out or whatever, but just ensure that it's been off for a while. Be careful for capacitors, especially in televisions, well certainly the old ones, they held up a lot of charge even though it had been switched off for ages. So just slide out, it's like these clips, see these, they just come out, prise them off, the front off as well. Give it a shot. Let's keep this in. So there's obviously something so these lips here slide in under the front cowl, the front panel. Right, I'll zoom this camera into it then, okay? Okay, now, that's the cover off. That's what it's like inside. Nothing missing in the cover. These are the capacitors, so you don't want to be messing about with them, because there could still be charge left in them. Although that's unlikely. I think there's a built-in discharge when you turn these things off, but that's what the capacitors look like anyway. And you get much bigger ones. There's a big one there, a suppressor type one for the power supply. Power supply comes in here. That's your main inline fuse. And I think that's induction transformers or something. I'm not 100% sure, but that's like the main power supply. Heat sink as well. See, this is old. I could probably dismantle all this anyway. Take all the circuit boards out for you, let you see all that. That'll be the tuning circuits, because it's got this silver interference plate to reflect off any, you know, electrical radiation. Obviously, you don't want to get that in your fine tuning, upset all the tuning mechanism, sensitive tuning stuff. That's the main board, the main circuit, motherboard, microchip, whatever. Yeah. How it works. This is an old device though. This is an old DVD recorder, so the things are a lot smaller these days. So I could probably take this board out. This connector. There's a way that it clips in. There's these wee clips there that you've got to pull back to get it out. So, I see that's that one. That's the main power feed going in. Again, it's just see what it's going. So I'm holding this camera at the same time. What I'll do is I'll maybe set that down a minute. Ah, that's better. Now that's that board completely disconnected. So I'll start unscrewing it. It's magnetic screwdriver again. It's just a wee Phillips screw that holds a. And there's these little plastic lugs that need to be pinched in order to get the board up. That's kind of like little locating lugs that hold the board in. So we'll have to break to get them, pull that past that to get the board out. Just pinch them in, and then you've got to pinch these little plastic lugs in and push the board up at the same time in order to get it out. I used to work in a factory years ago, back in 20 years ago, Telspec. We were building these telecommunications circuits for modems and stuff. So I've handled these things. You're not actually meant to handle circuit boards, you're meant to have them in a Faraday bag and strap, an earth strap, so they don't get static stuff. But as I say, this thing's finished anyway, so something else in this in. Let's see what's on this start. Lock the board there out. Still. Ah, there's one in the centre. Oh, there's another wee screw in the centre. That's what it is as well. Another one actually. Missing. That's kind of like. Right, so that's the power supply board, circuit board out. That's what it looks like at the back. Resistors, I don't know, there's a colour code to these resistors, I can't remember. I taught it in physics, and then I done a young engineers course as well at the college many years ago. I can't remember what they were. That's your diodes, if I remember right. You got your other resistors, rectifier, another heat sink, another rectifier. So obviously that's to dissipate the heat. So we'll get this off next as well. Then the main drive unit for the DVD. There's 4 Phillips screws and ribbon connector that will have to be unplugged. Should just unplug that now, and then there's another. That'll be for the electronics, the signal, and this will be for the power to the motor, I reckon. So it'll be another. So I may have to get this out first before I can disconnect that. Right, I'm going to stop this for a moment, watch the memory. I'm going to have to transfer files off this phone onto the laptop. Okay, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I was just watching the memory on the phone, so I was just transferring it onto the SD card. Seems to be enough at the moment, but I'm kind of hoping that I don't need to hook it up to the laptop and maybe get away with. Right. Hopefully there's enough memory. So I'm just going to screw these 4 Phillips screws. We've got a sharp Phillips screwdrivers because these metal, they're just small screws and they're quite soft metal. So if you've got a blunt screwdriver, it'll just round the heads. So you want a good sharp Phillips screwdriver. Get them out. There's a lot of sharp components in here as well, so you've got to watch you don't cut yourself, especially on the back side of the circuit boards. All these solder, that's very sharp, so you don't want to get that out your cut down there. So that's the main DVD drive, that's the power supply lead and plug that I'm going to try and get out. It should just be a push these lugs in and get it that way. I think that's all it is. So that's that'll be the motor there. Well, one of them anyway, because you've always got other motors for the drive mechanism that pulls the, for the drawer, and then you've got the motor that spins for the disc, and you've got the laser heads in there as well. Maybe take this cover off and see what. 3 Phillips screws, 3 Phillips small Phillips screws to get this plate off. You've got to be careful. There's when you're opening the electronic stuff, there's a lot of hazardous materials that aren't good for you, like solder. You don't want to get that in your skin and that. Insulations. There's all sorts of chemical-like substances. You've got to be. You're really better wearing like thin gloves for that. So that's the cover, and it's a very fine circuit board, very fine wiring in here. You can see the actual drive feed shaft, like it's a worm type shaft, screw shaft or whatever. That'll be there. Must be a balancing magnet. That'll be the motor. It'll be all balanced, obviously, so the disc doesn't spin out. It's got to spin freely. There's little clips that hold that circuit board in it. Just clip. That'll be the main control unit, well, the main chip for the lasers. And I think that's the laser heads there. See, these wires are soldered on to the board, so I can't really get them off, although I could just rip them off, but what I'll do is I'll zoom this camera in. So that there is that looks like the laser drive, the laser heads or whatever. So obviously the reading, it reads the disc, shines a laser, obviously has to reflect back in. That's all the drive mechanisms and that. That's the main motor by the looks of it. That's just the plugs that power up and the signal plug there, and then the power will be the bigger wires, bigger, thicker plug. Yeah, so that just obviously the drawer inside. So yeah, just basically, so the disc will go in. Right, so I could take the tuning circuit. I think this might be the main processor here, because it's most of the wires are going into this. This will be the lower voltage side, all the fine electronics. So I'll see if I get this board out for you. Okay, I'll just pause this again and get this files transferred onto the SD card. Oh, that was odd. I don't know what happened there, if it recorded or what. It just seemed to have stopped. All I did was, in case you missed that, it was a bit annoying because I thought I'd pressed record. I just took the screws out there. There was 4 screws there and the screws that are in the back. There's just one screw left that I forgot to take out. That was the camera falling. So I'll just get that back up on the stand again. Right, I bumped it with the screwdriver, so I get this last screw out. So it's hidden. It was hidden behind this adhesive strap. And that should allow us to get this board out. I'm annoyed at that because I missed. He didn't miss much. He only just missed me taking out 4 screws out on the circuit board there. Right. So that's it out. Just SCART leads, your aerial input and tuning mechanism. That would be full of wee capacitors and that. Can't remember what they're called again. They're small capacitors and this stuff. Right, that's what the chassis looks like now. So I'll get the front buttons, the display circuit board out as well. I think this front should actually just, you see the clips there, I think that's just unclip. It does. There's something just stopping. Oh, that's it. Got to unplug the circuit boards. See, they've taped the wires onto the base plate, the chassis, if you call it, just for tidiness. So we've obviously got to put them on, untape them. Right. Yeah, it's just these. Should really have a pair of scissors handy. It's just to get these adhesive. So that's the display board and function board, control board, this button board, sorry. There's 2 screws, Phillips screws, insulated ones that hold, and tell a lie, 3 screws that hold that to the inside. And that board again, it's just got these little clips, you just push them back, right, board will come out. It's just little locator pins, lugs, plastic locator lugs. So there's the actual glass display, the LCD liquid crystal display. That's the buttons, that's the buttons. Obviously they're operated by the, the buttons that you've got the transfer. That's the buttons that you press, that we press on the outside, and they just extend using this mechanism. So you're pressing these buttons and they just basically, the rods, these rods connect up with the buttons that are on the circuit board. But that's the actual, what your buttons are pressing at the end of that's what they're pushing. And that's your plugged in. I think, no, that's actually soldered in. These plugs are actually soldered onto the board. You can see it at the bottom there. So they don't come off. But they plug in to the other side, onto the other board. There's plugged, connected plugs plug onto the other circuit boards. So this will come off as a unit. And that must be the power on light indicator connector. I know it's not. No, it's just because it's cable tied onto the power cord. That's the main power cord here, obviously. It's just a little cable tie that's connected, joined to it. Not electrically connected, but just physically wound on with this cable tie for tidiness. And that's the. I don't know. Try to figure out what that is. Oh no, that's for the CVBSN speakers. That'll be for the audio. That's a little circuit board there. That slides in, I think. It's a Phillips screw there. I don't know if that's maybe a washer in it. Oh, it is, yeah, because that just locks it in. That washer just pushes down on that bit there. That's what. To show you that there. So this washer just clamps down onto the board to stop it from sliding out. So it just slides in on the bottom there. This where that screw goes. So that's just basically the front panel with the. So this will obviously get pushed open from the inside through the DVD drive. And that's all the buttons. Again, they're just rods on the back, which extend to the circuit board. And that's what operates the circuit board. And that's just the plastic liquid crystal display unit cover. That's what gives you that. The colour of it. That's the actual display, and it shines through this lens cover here. Oh, and there's a little fibre optic. No fibre. Is it fibre? Oh, what's it called? Optical. I can't remember, but the light shines through this. Transfers the light, so it comes out as a light here. Fibre optics or something. There's a name for it. I can't remember, but obviously that. There just extends further to the light source on probably this here. Right, well that's it, pretty much dismantled. Just adhesive stuff to keep the cables from moving around, tidying. These things are just bolt-on circuit boards, bolt-on assembly lines. The circuit boards, well, I remember when I worked in the factory, the board just used to go down a line and you would just add the components in. It would move very slowly and you would just drop the components in and you just do the next board and it would come along and you just dropped your components on. And then further up, you know, there was a production line, so everybody knew which components to drop in. And then it would go through a sort of soldering machine that solders all this. It's far too difficult to... it's pretty impressive anyway, but it's for mass production, mass produced. So, and that's all the screws that I took out. So that's more or less goes inside. It's a DVD recorder. Just the shell. or the guts of it. It's just lightweight. Pressed steel panel. This is the main chassis, as they call it. Base plate. Just the rubber feet. Stop it from scraping the tables, scoring it. Just a little cable tires. There's loads of these things here just to tie to tape the wires down and keep them tidy. So there you. That's pretty much it. Yeah, no, it comes out. I don't know if I could get that out as well. Ah, see, that's soldered onto the motor. So I've actually just broke the circuit board right off there. I mean, it's just paper thin. Now this is finished anyway, but at least it'll let you see. It'll let us see what's. I'll set this here in a minute. Let's see. I'm just going to pull these wires right off. So, because it's getting scrapped, anyway, it's getting chucked in the bin. So, well, responsibly, it's going to the proper appliance recycling centre. So you're supposed to do it. So, so there's a better view of the laser devices there. There is some sort of barcode there as well. It must just be for the parts. Serial number. 12-year-old. Oh no, what? 13-year-old. Well, that's August 2007. Well, it's November 2020, so it's just over 13 years old. At least that's what the date's saying on there. That's probably when this was assembled or something, or tested or whatever. Yeah, visible and invisible laser radiation. When opening, avoid direct exposure to the beam. So never look at the, you don't want to look at lasers because it could blind you effectively. It's a light radiation. So you got to be careful what you're doing. That looks like the teeth for the drawer. For moving because there'll be a drive motor at somewhere in there that will obviously engage with this to push out the drawer for the inserting and ejecting the DVD from the device. So it's a much finer circuit board as well. That's the main motherboard, the main board for the device. Right, okay, that'll do the now. Right, so that's it all. As you've seen it, took the thing right down to its, well, the main components anyway. And that's what's inside that DVD recorder. You saw the model and everything. Like I say, I wouldn't recommend anybody open up any electrical equipment unless they know the basic understanding of the safety aspect of mains voltage electrical equipment. Just don't open it if you don't know what you're doing. So, yeah, there isn't an awful lot, like, inside it. I mean, nowadays everything is getting smaller. It's more to do with the microchip in computers takes away a lot of the old wires and that. I would like to be able to think if I've got an old 1980s or 1990s devices and take them apart, you would see the amount of wires that's inside them. It's much heavier duty. I mean, stuff was done electrically, a lot more electrical components and wires in the older stuff than what's in the modern electronics. I mean, everything now is miniaturized. There's not that many wires in there. It's all done by the ribbon wires and circuit boards. The microchip takes away a lot of the old transistors and well, not valves. Valves, I mean, that's going back to the 60s, 50s, and I mean 40s. I mean, my era, I'm 45, so in my era it would have been transistors, transistor radios. There was microchips, but not like microprocessors of today. I mean, much more primitive, bigger. But the microchip is what replaces a lot of the smaller 3-pole transistors. There's all sorts of names for them. There's dipole transistors. If my other mate, if he was here, he knows all about all that sort of stuff. My dad as well. They know all the ins and outs. I've been interested in it ever since I was a kid. I really like the stuff. I like knowing how things work. Always have. So at least if there's, well, we're hoping that if you are watching, there's somebody's, I hope it helps somebody, anybody that wanted to see what's inside a DVD recorder. It's fairly old. But yeah, a lot of this stuff, as I say, it's all miniaturized. You need a microscope, magnifying glass to see a lot of it. Anyway, it was good fun, that. I enjoyed that. I hope you did as well. You know, make what you want. Just done it for some idea. Okay. I'll maybe get some other adventure videos put up. Okay, thanks for watching. Okay. Bye.